Okay. Hello, my name is Mikayla Spitler. I teach at Spearville High School in Spearville, Kansas in Southwest Kansas. I teach physical science to freshmen, biology to sophomores, and chemistry to juniors and seniors. And then we actually use the individualized plan of study model.
I'm Katie Flickinger. I teach at Wichita Southeast. I teach business classes, so computer essentials, photo imaging, and financial literacy. And I teach it to all like 9th through 12th graders. And at my school, we use Avid and Gear Up.
I'm Kyle Kohler. I teach at McLeod High School. I'm a business teacher there for both 6th through 12th, teaching computer classes as well as accounting, management, economics, things like that. We use the individual plan of study as well, so I'll be speaking on behalf of that.
Hey, I'm Eli Copeland. I teach at Wichita North High in Wichita, Kansas. I teach English. I have Honors English 2 classes and Junior English, which is English 3. And we have Avid. We also have Gear Up at North. All right, I'll go into it. As far as Avid, it stands for Advancement via Individual Determination. I was an Avid kid. I started in 8th grade. It's basically, from what I remember, it is a college prep program that you can get put in. A lot of schools have it where you can be in the kindergarten and you'll be in the program all the way up until you graduate as a senior in high school. I entered in 8th grade at Pleasant Valley Middle School in Wichita. I was an Avid kid in all 4 years of high school at Wichita North too. Wichita North is actually a national demonstration school for Avid. So people that like run the whole Avid program like nationally will come in and observe how the whole program works. As far as it being a student success model, the tools that you're given as an Avid student is a binder, like a thick binder. Like they wanted you to put all your classes in there. Make sure you stay organized. They want to teach you how to be organized and how to be a college student. Make sure you're staying on top of everything. That way you have everything with you. And then every week they have binder checks. You're expected to take notes in every class, Cornell note style, with all your headings and questions on the left, and putting all like the meat of your notes on the right side. That way you have your ideas and you have your highlighted notes, your underlined, everything that's circled, okay, on the left-hand side. And then the meat of what you're really writing down is on the right-hand side. So you have the headings and everything. And then they summarize, you're supposed to summarize your notes. So at the bottom, after you've kind of gone over your notes and everything that you've written down, like what's the gist of it? What's the main point that you need to get away from? You need to take away from having those notes. And you're supposed to have those at least one piece of notes from every class per week, depending on the teacher. Sometimes it depends on when your binders will be checked, but it's just about staying organized and making sure that you're kind of keeping yourself in check as far as knowing what notes you took for what class and what's coming up and what you need to study for, what assignments coming up, and just knowing like what you have to do. It's kind of just having an agenda, and they check your agenda as well, making sure that you're writing stuff down that's due and knowing when your due dates are, when you have to turn things in. Your teachers do that. They're also Avid tutors that help throughout the building. I was an Avid tutor as well after I graduated from college for a while. They help you during tutorials. So at least part of your day in your Avid class, you will have a tutorial where, say, you and 5 of your classmates that also have Algebra 2 or Geometry or English, whatever it is, they will have a tutor specifically for that subject that's going to help you out and walk you through each essential question you have for that day. So when you do a tutorial, your job is to come up with a question about whatever you're trying to study, whatever you're studying for whatever subject, and whatever your question is, the tutor is supposed to guide you towards the answer, as well as the people in your group. So if you're all working on a project in chemistry, you're trying to get some problems or an assignment done in chemistry, and everyone kind of has the same question. Like together, collaboratively, you'll work with your classmates in that tutorial group, and however long it is, if you have a block schedule, I think a tutorial can last like 45, 30 minutes. And then hopefully, like once you get to the answer at the end, the tutor checks it and makes sure your work's good. The teacher checks it as well. But it's just like you would have a study group in college working on a giant project. They want to gear you towards collaborating with your classmates, talking to people, creating those bridges to where you can get extra help if you need it, and making sure that you have that connection with your classmates, because they have to do binder checks. They have to keep those binders. They have to have all their subjects in one spot. Along with the binder checks, they do a lot of ACT prep and like a PSAT prep. It's more ACT heavy. I never took the PSAT, and they have it available to take the PSAT, but it's more ACT prep heavy, making sure that you have like the study booklets for each section, knowing what to do as far as on test day. You need a pencil and calculator and all that stuff, and just making sure that you're ready to take this test for college, because the whole program is gearing you towards going to college. So they want to make sure that you have every step taken care of before you get there. And then once you get into your junior year, they want to make sure that you're applying for scholarships. So any scholarship that's out there, they'll hook you up with an account on FastWeb. At least that's what they did for my class, making sure that, if it's as easy as writing an essay about some topic or subject and turning it into a certain person that's handing out the scholarship, then yeah, if it's it's something easy like that, then sure, go ahead and do it. Or videotape yourself doing community service or whatever it is. Like every opportunity, Avid will help hook you up with whatever resource so you can get that scholarship money to go to college. And it's like for any type of college, they take a lot of college field trips as well, going to four-year universities. We went to K-State, we went to KU. We also went to Butler County Community College just to check it out. Kids go to WATC, other technical colleges as well, because every kid has a different career path on what they want to do. And they challenge you. They want to make sure that you're taking challenging classes, hard classes. So if you're doing really well your sophomore year in English 2, they might bump you up to English Honors English 3 next year when you're a junior. Same thing in math. If you're really doing well in this certain math class, they might bump you up to like geometry or something the next time. So you're not in a math class where you're just like excelling. They want to push you and making sure that you're taking the hardest classes possible and just challenging you. They don't want to burden you, but they want to make sure that you're challenging yourself and not just kind of cruising by, because college isn't like that. And then AP tests, they stress taking AP classes and taking AP tests. They also stress taking any class that offers concurrent credit, so you can have that credit before you actually get to college, so you already have that credit underneath your belt. But it's a great student success model. Your Avid teacher, they don't get paid an extra overage or stipend or anything to teach that class. Like they take that on, and it's their responsibility to make sure that all those kids in that class are getting all their work done and staying on top and being organized and setting their goals and just being goal oriented and making sure they're achieving those goals as far as getting to college, and figuring out what's the best career path for them. Like, not every kid's going to go to a 4-year university, but not every kid's going to go to a JUCO either. So if you want to play a sport, like what else are we doing in order to get an academic scholarship other than your athletic scholarship? Like, what else are we doing to help you out? And so you're not, in debt after college as well. What smart choices are we making and helping the student do in order to achieve their goals and get to college, and make, mom and dad proud or make themselves proud, just, knowing that they did it and they were organized and, they challenged themselves and they actually accomplished their goals. So as far as Avid, at North anyway, that's pretty much the gist of it. We have 2 Avid classes per grade. There are 2 Avid teachers for freshmen, sophomore, juniors, and seniors. And kids have the option to opt out of it if they feel like they don't need the program, or if it's taking up like one of their electives or something. So they'll do that as well. And
so
a lot of kids stay with it the entire way. So I don't know. I haven't really come across a lot of kids that don't like the program, but some kids do. So
Yeah, I was going to ask if they opt into it like 8th grade, do they have to stay in it until senior year?
They don't have to. I mean, of course, the kids, the teachers in the program, they want them to stay, but it's ultimately up to the kids. So
Okay.
Yeah, and I know at my school, like we have a couple Avid classes too, and our teachers that teach Avid, they'll have like trainings and stuff that they have to go to, and the Avid kids that are in other classes, they will ask the teachers like, "Can I take these notes to my Avid teacher to show that I'm taking notes and that I'm being like I'm on task and stuff like that?" And I know at my school, like Eli said, we do go to college visits, whether it's like WSU or K-State or KU or stuff like that. And I was looking up online, like when I was researching about Avid. So 75% of Avid students are from a low socioeconomic status background, and 80% are underrepresented students. So nevertheless, they outperform their peers. But it says that 94% complete 4-year college entrance requirements. 90% who apply are accepted into 4-year colleges, and 85% persist into a second year of college. So you can like look up by state too. So I looked it up in Kansas, and there's 15 Avid districts. So Wichita USD 259 is an Avid district, meaning like you can be an Avid, like he said, you can start in like kindergarten and go all the way through your senior year of high school. And it's something that colleges really like to see. So it says in Kansas, 97% of Avid Kansas seniors complete 4-year college entrance requirements, and 83% are accepted into colleges here in Kansas. So that is something that we do at my school too, and it just helps the kids be college and career ready, whether that's going to a 4-year, a JUCO, or like a trade school or something like that. The whole point is to just get them college and career ready. So
Yeah, Avid seemed like a really interesting one from like what I researched. Now, unfortunately, we don't have it. And so one of the questions I wanted to ask Eli or Kaitlyn, and one of you two, do you think that it would be difficult to implement in a smaller school? Like, so we're a 2A school, so unfortunately, we don't have like a lot of access. Like our teachers they already have a pretty full schedule with a lot of different preps. Do you feel like it would be difficult to kind of like bring that in? Because I feel like Avid would be an awesome thing where students get to decide themselves that they want to be a part of it. Do you think that'd be hard to implement?
I don't think it's hard to implement. Before I got a job at Wichita North, I had an interview at Andale, which is a small 4A. And it's kind of out in the country a little bit. So a lot of the kids, but the demographic is predominantly white kids from middle class or upper middle class. So a lot of their parents stress, they want their kids to go to a nice 4-year college right out of high school. Well, it's either that or like working on the farm or family farm or something. But I think it would be important for those kids because like not every kid is, geared to go to a 4-year university right out of high school. It's a college dream sometimes, but sometimes it's just not in the cards. So, but to see the other options that are out there that can help you, definitely go to a community college first if that's the best career or path for you as far as college. Paying those classes out of pocket for a while and maybe working a little bit your first year or two during college, and then moving on to a bigger university or going to some sort of trade school, for welding or automotive or whatever it is. If that's what the kid wants to do, then, hook them up with the right resources. And that's a lot about what Avid is hooking the kids up with the right resources to making sure that they have, every resource possible to get to where they want to go. So Avid does that. And that would work, in any type of school, I think.
yeah, I think even at like a small school, it might even be a little bit more beneficial for the kids because you would have like a one-on-one relationship with them, kind of, because the classes would be a lot smaller, I'm thinking, if it's a smaller district and a smaller school. But like as far as funding and stuff like that, Avid is funded through, I don't know I don't even know why I started to say that. Avid, I do know, but I forgot, actually. It's, I don't know what I was going for. But as far as having like smaller classes, I think that you could get to know the kids a little bit more and what they want to do. And especially if they start, like you said, you taught 6th through 12th or something like that, especially if you have them as young kids and then you still teach them as they get to be seniors in high school. So you've kind of seen them grow up and what they're interested in and stuff like that. I think it would still work out really well at a small school, in my opinion.
Nice. Well, thank you guys. Appreciate that. Eli, if you're good, do you want to pass it on and I can talk about individual plans of study, which is what we implement?
Definitely. I thought, Kaitlyn, were you going to say something about Gear Up?
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I can say something about Gear Up. So Gear Up is essentially pretty close to the same thing as Avid, but Gear Up is where you are working. So the people who work Gear Up work at a college around us. So obviously in Wichita, the people are generally from Wichita State, and they come into the school and like visit with the students and have different like incentives for those who have 4.0, and they help them. And they also take the students on college visits and have little meetings with kids that are interested in that like specific college. So Gear Up is a little different because it's not a class at the school or anything like that. It's people coming in from other colleges and showing the kids like what you can do or how you can get to a certain school. I also looked up Gear Up. So the program is it's a grant, so it's all over the United States. Like this isn't just like a Kansas thing or anything like that. It's known, the funding is different and everything. It's known throughout the United States, but it is designed to increase the number of low-income students who are prepared to enter and succeed in post-secondary education. So it provides a 6-year or 7-year grant to like states and stuff like that to work with them and work with their colleges and work with their high schools to get these lower income kids. It teaches them how to do FAFSA. It teaches them how to do like how to deal with student loans and stuff like that. And like if your parents aren't going to fill out your FAFSA, then they have ways around that and they help those kids that are lower income. But it's not through my actual school. They just come to my school and help the kids there and pull the kids and talk to them during class and stuff like that.
Yeah, like the Gear Up representatives, they work for like Wichita State, and they have offices at my school, but they work for the university. So,
Yeah.
And the Gear Up people that work at North are focusing specifically on the freshman class. So like they'll be with the freshmen all the way up until they're seniors as well. So like they're making sure that this specific class is making sure the low income students of this specific class are making sure they have all the resources they need as far as getting to college, and teach them all that stuff as far as, the resources they need and all the stuff they have to do to, in order to get to college. And they offer like programs in the summer as well. Like kids that sign up or want to do a specific program at Wichita State, they'll like hook them up with a dorm room, take them on, campus tours, campus visits. They'll stay on campus for so long and take classes geared towards whatever they're interested in, stuff like that too. So it's a little bit more hands-on through the actual college than Avid is with the high school. So, but it's still definitely a good program to have.
Yeah.
Now, is that something that they sign up for as well, or is that like if you're a Gear Up school, then like it's implemented in like all freshmen or that meet that status, or all freshmen in general are required to be a part of this?
At my school, it's it's the freshmen. It's the whole freshman class. And then there's like certain kids that you'll have to sign up if you want to go on a college visit, or you have to have a certain GPA or stuff like that. Like if you're interested, because obviously not all the freshmen are going to want to do this stuff, but there are those kids that stand out and they really want to do it. But they do come to every single freshman class and they talk to every single group of freshmen, and they give them like t-shirts and stuff like that. So
yeah, They focus on the freshman class like heavily. Like I don't know when they start to decide like, you know, or if there's any criteria as far as being like low income or something, but they try to focus on everybody for the most part. And I think they just kind of, they know whose socioeconomic status is like lower. So they may focus a little bit more attention on those kids and just double checking on their home life and their grades a little bit more than some, I guess. But
And
as
like
far as I'm concerned,
providing.
the whole like freshman class is a part of Gear Up. So
Yeah, and they like provide they're also who the kids can go to if you need like a backpack or if you need pencils or pens or a notebook or something like that for like those lower income kids. Gear Up also takes care of them in that aspect too. So yeah.
Very cool. All right. If you guys are good, do you guys want to pass it over and we can do the individual plan of study?
yep.
Awesome. So as I mentioned before, our school does individual plans of study, which essentially is starting from 8th grade. A pathway is kind of developed for what the student wants to get into, past high school. The idea behind this is to prepare students for either a 4-year college, 2-year college, or some sort of trade school, and that's based on careers being shifted where there's more education than just a high school degree needed. So the way that I look at this is that there's different aspects that makes the individual plan of study successful. The career exploration aspect, the pathway creation, the student implementation, and then the parent involvement. So as I mentioned before, they do a lot with career exploration, which is allowing students to see kind of different careers that are out there and see if that's something that they want to be a part of after high school, after college, after trade school. And based on what their interest is, they set up a pathway as they go throughout from 8th grade all the way until their senior year to kind of better prepare them for that type of career. Now, the student involvement is big because they need to kind of buy into the program in order to, it's one of those things like you get out what you put in. And so it's a little different than I thought Avid was really cool, is because they kind of sign up for this where with the individual plan of study, this is a state, state project where at least our school, all students are required to be a part of the individual plan of study. The other thing is that the parent involvement is really big. So they want to kind of keep parents involved as much as possible. So for the most part, they want at least twice a year, parents need to kind of be checking in on what pathway their child is on and kind of how they're still moving through that pathway. The more obviously that parents can be involved, the better. But those are the ways that it can be successful. Now, at my school at McLeod, we do career cruising as part of our advisory. So this is a kind of a free hour at the end of the day in which students get to meet with their advisory teacher. They go into one room based off the grade that they're in, unfortunately. Well, I guess not unfortunately, but I think that's a way that it could be improved. So they use this time to kind of go through career cruising, do some like career studying and different things like that. We also do what's called voyages at our school, which is a new aspect to advisory. And that is each teacher essentially signs up to teach a different topic that wouldn't be necessarily like a major focus of curriculum in school. So like maybe they want to be an English teacher. And so there would be a career, or there'd be a voyage on, what does it look like to do, be an English teacher after high school. And so they would go and meet with that English teacher. Or what does it look like for, I don't know, welding or something like that. So they spend a little additional time doing this voyage that wouldn't be just focused on the curriculum. It'd be a smaller part of the curriculum for a certain subject. So that's how we've been trying to implement it. Now, I have 7th grade as part of our advisory hour. So I have not been, I've not implemented the individual plan of study for my students yet. That will be something that I work with my advisory crew with next year. And then I kind of will follow them along as they go through this individual plan of study. So I talked with a few other teachers and I talked with our counselor to see, what do they think is working? What do they think is not working? And unfortunately, I think right now they're finding that it's not the most effective. It's not being used as effectively as they would hope. I think one of the biggest issues after talking with my students or talking with the teachers and the counselors that the student buy-in just isn't there. Unfortunately, they view this as very much of a chore because it's unlike Avid. It's something that's kind of like forced onto them and doing, hey, you're going to do this during this free hour, when students would rather be doing their voyage, or they'd be rather meeting with their club like FBLA, FFA, FCCLA, and things like that, Stuco. So it takes time away from things that they'd rather be involved in, as well as getting their homework done. So they kind of view it a lot more as a negative chore than they actually view it as, oh, this is really good for me in the long run, even though I may not enjoy this right now, which is it's kind of an unfortunate aspect of it. The advisory period as a whole, as I mentioned, with trying to meet with the clubs and the voyages and do the homework, it makes it really tough for teachers to find specific ways to balance allowing students to get those things accomplished while also kind of pushing them through this pathway. And then the last aspect that kind of is a bigger issue in terms of the individual plan of study is the parental feedback and involvement. One of the things that we've noticed, and I think this is just kind of within the community that I teach, but there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of parent involvement in terms of reaching out and staying involved with the career cruising, even though career cruising allows parents to check in. For what we can see, parents aren't necessarily as kind of involved, and it really is only touched upon once during parent-teacher conferences throughout the year. So those are some of the bigger issues that we're facing right now with having a successful individual plan of study for our students. And then I thought of, or talking with some of my teachers and our counselor, trying to think of different ways that we could better implement this. One of the things I talked with, I have a friend who teaches back in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And one of the things that they do as part of their advisory hour is they break the school into different houses, similar to like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with like Harry Potter, but they like the different houses that you can be involved in. So there's 4 different houses that they get to work with, and they're broken down based on the student's interest and kind of where they want to go after high school, rather than saying, okay, all of you 8th graders, you're going here. All of you 9th graders, you're going here. It breaks it up and says, okay, if you're a senior that wants to do this certain type of career, then you're going to go here with these other juniors and sophomores and freshmen that also want to move forward towards that type of career, which I think is really interesting. It develops a little bit of camaraderie, and as I mentioned before, some excitement. One of the things that, as I mentioned, is students really view this as a chore and not as something that's enjoyable. So if we can get them to think of it as, you know, an exciting way, and like getting them excited to be a part of this advisory with their team, rather than this is a form that I need to fill out and kind of go through the motions with it.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a great idea. I was actually thinking about something like that a little bit earlier. Because, I mean, we have a variety of students, but we have a bunch of students that are already working like on the family farm. And so career cruising for them is basically like they went through the career cruising to find their interests and everything in 8th grade, and then they updated it in 9th grade. And basically they got farmer and on their thing, and they're like, okay, cool, I already know what I need to do for that. I'm already in it. So none of the rest of this has any meaning to me. So I think I was actually thinking about, well, what if we get, instead of having it's just 9th grade does career cruising together and then 10th grade, what if we get all of the people who are going to go into farming together, and they can work on, you know, maybe new techniques or new equipment or anything like that that's like up and coming. And if you can tell, I'm not part of the farming industry whatsoever. But, you know, maybe having them together, and then those who are focused on like maybe going into science or math in college can meet together, and they could actually do something that's a little bit more geared towards them. So it's not just career cruising, because the way we do it is like 8th and 9th grade, basically it's kind of looking at the possible careers that are out there and seeing kind of what your interests line up with. And then once you get into like 10th grade, start kind of looking at different colleges, different programs that you would want to go into for that. And then 11th and 12th grade is like scholarship applications, college applications, different things like that. And so I feel like we could do a better job of the career aspect and like grouping it like you were saying your friend does in Philly. And but yeah, and part of our problem is that we just switched guidance counselors this past year. So our guidance counselor before this one was kind of going through the motions with IPS. She wasn't really all that involved with it. And then our new guidance counselor is a lot more involved with it, but it's kind of the entire school trying to catch up to where she is. And we have a half-hour period every day right before lunch called seminar. And Tuesdays and Thursdays are set aside for like group meetings and things. And then we have Wednesdays for career cruising. And every time you tell the students, hey, we've got career cruising today, it's like, kind of thing. And it's like 15 students in my class all doing that at once. And it's just kind of like, all right, guys, come on. You knew this was coming. Let's go. And but our new guidance counselor has actually been getting out and around the school on Wednesdays during that time, making sure that everybody not only understands why we're doing what we're doing that day, but also that they're not having issues with the program or anything like that. And for a lot of students, I think there has been some use for it, whether or not they notice that as of yet, there has been some use to it. But yeah, it's just the guidance counselor taking care of it. Because from the 8th to the 12th grade, we might have 120 students. So she's really the only one who does anything with it and just passes that off to the teachers. And we kind of are like, hey, this is what she said we need to do. So it's kind of an isolated thing at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of how it is at our school too. And I think one of the other things that potentially would make the IPS system a little better in our school is making it more a part of the curriculum in different areas. So I know that we have like the family consumer science teacher. She uses some career cruising through part of her, different curriculums, which I think is awesome. And if especially like being an elective, like as a business teacher who's teaching elective courses, having them continue through career cruising, I think would be really a lot more beneficial than making it so that they're like, okay, this is serious. This is part of the class. We should focus on this.
Yeah.
Rather than, as you mentioned, just Wednesdays when students are going to come in and they're going to go in kicking and screaming because, as we mentioned before, that is like a very valuable, those 30 minutes are very valuable to them of,
yeah.
I could be meeting with my club, I could be getting homework done, and instead I got to waste my time doing this thing that I know what I'm going to do. So
Yeah. And you also talked about parent involvement, and that's one thing that we haven't really gotten in just yet. We also have a new principal this year, so there's a lot of change from last year to this year. But he has actually been talking about doing student-led conferences, which granted at the moment the students are not all that happy about, and also looking on starting that in March. So all of the teachers are kind of going, I'm sorry, what are we doing now at this point? But part of that would be part of the IPS kind of getting the teacher or the parents involved with the students' IPS. Because our guidance counselor has had some conversations with parents where they bring up the IPS and it's like, oh yeah, your student marked that they're interested in this and these are the career options that it gave them that go along with that. And the parent is sitting there and looks at their kid and said, I never knew you were interested in that. And we've gotten that a lot. So that's part of how we're kind of trying to get the parents more involved. So we'll see how that goes in the future, but yeah. So I know that like I'm from South Carolina, so it's a little bit different like outside of Kansas, but I know I went to a 5A school, and we didn't really have anything like IPS or AVID or anything like that. Most of this kind of stuff was involved in like our honors classes, and then we had like a bunch of little things that kind of work towards the same kind of idea of AVID and IPS. Like I know in 7th grade, I think it was, we actually all had to take the PSAT for whatever reason. And if we passed it, then we were actually put into a program called South Carolina Junior Scholars. And that was kind of like, in a way, with the Gear Up that Katie and Eli were talking about. We did like college visits. We had other meetings and stuff like that throughout the year where we would meet on that. But that was only for like the top couple percent of the school. So we only had maybe 30 students that were junior scholars. So it's actually really nice kind of hearing that, because I found some use in that, even though we didn't really go to any major colleges. I mean, we went to York Technical School, which would not be surprised if none of y'all have heard of it. But we did a couple like more like local school colleges and things like that. So it wasn't necessarily all that helpful on that aspect for me, because I ended up going to one of the 2 biggest schools in the state. But the whole, like, this is what you need to be prepared for with college and all of that kind of stuff was incredibly helpful. So it is really nice hearing y'all say that, like, your schools at least have a program that's geared towards that for anyone, not just for the top 10% of the school. And then we also kind of had something similar to an IPS, except it was just, we didn't actually have it in class. We just had it with one meeting with our guidance counselor at the end of the year. And mostly that was geared towards picking our classes for the next year. So even though the students can't necessarily see the use for all of this at this time, it's really nice to hear that, you know, schools are doing more about that than what I remember from high school, where it was just kind of all disconnected and everything. So I guess any closing thoughts from anybody else?
Just to talk about like the type of kids that are in Avid, it's not necessarily geared for like the smartest students. I mean, like it's not for the kids with the 4.0s that are going to be like valedictorian or anything like that. But it's not necessarily for, you know, it's for everybody. They try to get kids from, you know, all different walks of life in it. Avid at North High, you know, demographics about 75% Hispanic. So that's pretty much what demographic is in the classrooms. And they try to put as many males as they can in those in the Avid classes, but the reality is that more females go to college, so there's more females actually that end up in the Avid classes because they have those goals set already, and that's like the top as far as like, you know, there are more females that want to be a part of the program because they're goal oriented and you know they have those goals to go to college. So it's sometimes it's kind of like pulling teeth to get the boys to try to get into the program or want to be in the program and stay in the program. But like I said, it's not for, you know, the super, super smart kids that have all AP classes and honors classes and 4.0s and whatever, but it's more for the people that need the actual extra resource. They need that help to go to college. They need, you know, everything they, like I said, all the resources, getting scholarships, being organized, going on college visits, seeing what different types of colleges have to offer as far as four-year universities and two-year colleges and trade schools and whatnot, but seeing everything that's out there. And this class kind of helps them see, you know, what their future could look like. So, yeah, I would say it's, you know, it's for some of those kids that, you know, definitely, I mean, have good grades and have goals, but there are plenty of those kids that, especially like in my class, I have honors kids, and I can tell who the Avid kids are and who the Avid kids aren't because all the Avid kids have their Cornell notes out, taking notes whenever I'm giving my lecture, and it's in their binder, this big, you know, 3-inch binder. And the kids that are still successful, but they're not in Avid, they just don't have, they're not organized in that particular way. Not to say that they're not organized, but they just don't function that way, the way Avid kind of sets them up to do. So, but like I said, it's not for, like the super, super smart kids or, you know, the kids that, you know, maybe don't have plans to go to college, but it's for the kids that maybe don't have that extra resource so they can have like everything at their fingertips to in order to know, like, okay, yeah, I can do this. I can go to college. I can be the first kid in my family to go to college. And if it's a 4-year university, awesome. Or if it's a 2-year JUCO, cool. Or if it's a welding or mechanic school, whatever it is, like, I want to be able to see all the options. And, kids that you wouldn't think need Avid, sometimes those kids have been harped on, like, no, you need to go to this college, this 4-year university, and you need to pay, by the time you're done, you'll be $50,000, $80,000 in debt. Well, maybe they don't want to do it that way because they want to have a house, a family, a car, right out of college or whatever. So it's just about planning and giving kids the necessary resources in order to do that. But we want to challenge those kids. If a kid can make an A+ in a regular class, well, then the following year or even the following semester, yeah, sure, let's challenge you and see if you can get an A in an honors class or an AP class, and what grade can you get on the AP test. So.
Yeah, I mean, I have a question about that just because it sounds, I like how, like, hearing you talk about Avid, because it sounds like you're very passionate about it and you really believe in the success of that program. And one of the things I kind of touched on before is that I think it's cool with Avid is what you're saying is the students that want help and the students that want to succeed are the ones that sign up for this, and it truly allows them to succeed. Do you think, like, just these programs in general, like, the IPS, the Avids, the Gear Ups, do you think it would work better when it's an option and you're like, hey, do you want to sign up for this program? This is what it's going to do, and we're going to focus on you improving. Whereas, Mikayla and I talked about the IPS thing. Students feel like they're forced into it, and they're not really, like, it is what you put, like, you get out what you put into it. And since we're forcing on students, they feel like they're not doing it. Do you think it would work better if it were just an optional thing?
Yeah, I mean, like, there are 2 like Avid classes per grade. So I know there's like a waiting list. So if one kid drops out of the program, like, there's another kid that will take his place. And I think maybe I've seen a lot of kids get burned out with the program too. Maybe not a lot, but I've seen, my fair share. My classmates when I was an Avid, and, me being a teacher in the building now. But I think it's a little rougher, especially for kids that have been in the program ever since like 6th grade or even in elementary school. Because by the time they get to their sophomore, junior year, they're just like, or even their senior year, like, they're just, I'm done with this. I have all the resources I need. I want that extra elective class to have my, whatever other class they want, or not have that class, have their honors pass to where they don't have to have that class, but especially by the time they're a senior. But if you give them the resource, they'll like you said, they'll get out what they put in. But as far as, like, it used to be like Wichita North High was the only school in Wichita that had Avid. Now, like Katie said, it's the district. Like, all the schools in the district have it now because they saw what was happening at North. So everybody wants a piece of the pie now. It's all well and good, and I think you should make that resource available. But I think you should definitely, like, give it and make it applicable to the kids, or at least have it, have it as a choice for the kids that actually want to be in it and want to do well and have all those, and be like goal oriented, and have those goals that want to go to college. Because it wouldn't make sense to just put everybody in it, and then just see who sinks or swims, or who does well and who doesn't do well. So.
That's a good point. Thanks. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying I agree. Yeah, I think it's good when the kids decide they want to do it instead of forcing them to do it. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I think your internet is cutting out again.
Oh no. Okay. Everyone was just staring. I was like, yes.
No, you're good.
Let me see let's see.
Well, does anybody have anything to add, or do you want to go ahead and wrap it up now?
I'm good. I feel like I asked my questions and
yeah,
covered my stuff.
Just to like give like a closing thought or something, but like any of these programs, however we're going to implement them, whether it's Avid or, post-behavioral intervention sports, or individual plans of study, like any of these programs, it's all about if you can make a connection with the kid and kind of inspire them and just doing your job as a teacher and not just like, hey, do this. Like, every program is not for every kid, and that's perfectly fine. Like, a kid's got to find his own way, and it's our job to kind of help them and guide them on their own way, because if they don't need that extra help, then give them some other resource that they need help with. We all need, we all have our little, special techniques as far as being a teacher and being able to get across to those students. So if they're in this specific program and it's not working out, we still find the alternative. Maybe it's a different program we can get them into and help them out as best we can. So like I said, like, not all these programs are going to be for every kid, because not every kid might be like college in, career, or at least college ready or college oriented. Maybe that's not their goal. And if we can persuade them to do so, awesome. But if they just want to go straight to work out of high school because they have other responsibilities or whatever, then it's our job to kind of put them on the right path in order to get what they want to be.
Yeah. All right. I think that pretty much sums it up.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I agree.